¡Échale pues! ¡Váyale, váyale! A ver si es cierto. Échale, échale.
Te voy a cantar esta canción por la gracia que tienen tus mujeres. Ellas saben querer de corazón. En la plaza Zaragoza, los domingos, la más hermosa de mi lindo Monterrey. Hoy el tiempo no probó, que cada que vaya, ella volverá. Si amor ella lleva mi vida, se lo traerá. Que cada que vaya, ella volverá. Si amor ella lleva mi vida, se lo traerá.
Than the amazing folks I've already heard, from the president of the Latino Student Association. Your speech was really great. To the awards, the folkloric, that was just so much fun. And I'm like, you guys don't need me here. So I am really honored that you guys did ask me to come here. And the stage is very awkward for me, so I'm not sure where I'm going to stand. But I just want to say thank you for having me here, because it's a real honor, because you guys could have chosen anybody, and I feel very humbled that you chose me. So, there's me when I'm getting my PhD, or actually that's when I got my National Alumni Award, and had a little speaking gig there. But what I want to start with is around education attainment. That's what we're going to talk about today for Latinos. And most recently, just this past October, I was having a Dia de los Muertos party at my house, which meant enchiladas, beans, all the good stuff. And there was about 10 of us, and the evening started to wind down, and there was about maybe 5 or 6 of us left. And it was a very unusual moment that 3 who were left were Latinos who had their PhD, myself, and this other woman. And, we started being boring, because everyone wants to come to our house for a party. And we started talking about, what's in the news. And we were talking about Jill Biden, because as you guys might know, President Biden's wife is Dr. Jill. She's a professor at a community college, and she goes by Dr. Jill. Well, the Wall Street Journal just thought that was really terrible that Dr. Jill uses the term doctor, and literally wrote an editorial that was quite aggressive, telling her to take her title off, and that she was fraudulent, and it was almost comic, and she should not be called a doctor. So, of course, the liberal New York Times had a really good response, and we all talked about that, and it talked about the evolution of the word doctor, and where it was very sexist, and that's why it originally couldn't be used. And we're talking about this, and again, you guys are very grateful you're not at my house for dinner, right? Have these really entertaining conversations. And one of my friends says, "Oh, come on, a PhD is a dime a dozen." I think the 3 Latinas, we all just stopped and just thought out loud a little bit and to ourselves, in whose world do you live in? I am 0.11% of Latinas who have a PhD. I am not even part of 1%. I am 1/10 of 1%. And this person had the audacity to say PhDs are a dime a dozen. I was just never so upset. I lost sleep that night, I talked to her the next day, and I was just really disappointed, because she's a good friend, she's white, she's super liberal, she's super committed to social justice, and here in my own house, she did not understand the educational achievement gap between Latinos and whites. And she didn't even understand that there's not a lot of us who have a PhD. We just get used to it when you're on a campus and things like that. And in a half a second, she diminished my accomplishment, she diminished my family's accomplishment, she diminished my friend's accomplishment, and it was really sad. But I had to look at the fact that I am a statistical anomaly. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. When I graduated, so I can completely date myself, only 50% of us graduated from high school. 50%. When I went to college, of the 50% of the students who did go to college, I was of the 50% who went directly to college. When I went to college, I was part of the 40% who went to a 4-year university, and I was part of the 10% who went to a private university. And I was part of the 20% who did not drop out after her first semester. And I was part of the 20% who graduated in 4 years. So that's very, very unusual statistics that folks need to be aware of. Now, we're doing a little bit better as a Latino population. We still have majority of our students go to community college, but it's gone from 2/3 to 1/2. We have 80% high school graduation rate, which is record-breaking. And we have a 16 to 20% graduation rate from college. Still compared anywhere from 40 to 60% for our white counterparts, right? And so, you know, you have to think about, why am I a statistical anomaly in 2022? And certainly I was one in 1984, around that time when I graduated from college, but why do our statistics stay the same? And so what I'm going to do today is talk about my education journey and compare that to research to really talk about the challenges that are built into our education system. Because, you know, when I was growing up and going to college, I didn't know I was a statistical anomaly. I didn't know it until I then became an admissions counselor at Texas Women's University, went to get my master's at NYU, then I worked for Williams College, and that's when I started seeing all the systemic barriers. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Real privilege for those who got the awards tonight, heard a lot of that about how they're mentors and how they're improving access and how they work in admissions. And that's really how I got into this work too. I got into admissions and I saw the inequities, whether I was at a public school, a private school, or a community college. You saw the inequities in access and success. So one of the reasons why I'm a statistical anomaly, according to research, is because of my parents' education attainment. So there are my lovely parents, and then a bunch of others on the other side, family members. And so I'm first generation on my mother's side. My mother's from Chihuahua, Mexico, and she came to the United States when she was 10 years old. She had about 5 siblings. It seems like my grandfather was a really good businessman, and he was also a really bad gambler. So he seemed to have gotten into a little bit of trouble, and they had to come to the United States. Luckily for him, his brother was in the United States in Pueblo, Colorado, where we had the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, and he was able to sponsor my mother and her family, and they came to the U.S. when she was 10 years old. My mother learned to speak English from a Baptist missionary, and that's what you're going to find out about why and where I went to college. And went to high school, had to take care of her brothers and her sister who was born in the United States, and then started going to community college, but couldn't balance work, community college, and taking care of family because my grandmother was ill, and so she just went to work full time. On my dad's side, I'm first-gen college student, but I'm second generation. So if you guys, in Colorado, there's actually a significant population of Mexican Americans who live in southern Colorado, and we were there because we worked in the coal mines. And so my dad's grandfather was a migrant worker, and then his dad worked in the coal mines on the border of New Mexico and Colorado. And then my grandfather was like, his dad was like, nope, this isn't for me. So he also went to Pueblo, Colorado, and he also worked for the iron or steel mill up there as well. So as you can see, Pueblo was almost like a little refuge for Mexican Americans, because it had a job that you could do, earn good pay, and just do it with a high school degree. But my dad's like, yeah, I'm not working in the iron mill. He too went to community college, but then he enlisted in the war. And then when he got out of the war, he was going to be a diesel mechanic, right? He had a high school degree, he had some community college, but somebody introduced him to being a sheet metal worker. So he became an apprentice, and then he became a journeyman, the hierarchy within the sheet metal and carpentry world. And then he became a teacher for other sheet metal workers as part of the sheet metal union, and really organized the kind of curriculum and everything they learned in the sheet metal trade, and ultimately worked his way up to be the executive director with a high school degree. But if you looked at what research suggested early on, I was not supposed to go to college. Research said education attainment is matched to your parents' education attainment. And therefore, research doomed me to high school or a couple of years of community college, and that's all I was going to have. And it's silly that research would take such a deficit model, because we are such resilient folks, but also we are first generation. So of course our parents didn't go to college. So are you supposed to doom me because my parents didn't go to college? So it seemed like that was pretty skewed research. And despite the fact that our families and our parents haven't gone to college, Latinos have the highest aspirations for their children. Time after time, every single survey shows that at least 80% of Latino parents believe their kids should go to college. And that is compared to 67% of Caucasian parents. That is huge, and it is a huge game changer for us. And so research has evolved and has now not so much closely associated education attainment of your parents to your own, because they realize the whole issue around education and attainment is the lack of access to high-quality educators, high-quality schools, and why I started doing a lot of work in high school redesign. And so it really became that education was really about where you had access to high-quality schools, where your zip code is, where you live. So that was one reason why it was a statistical anomaly, is that early on, research said, you're only going to achieve as much as your parents did. But then, my parents moved us out to Lakewood, Colorado. So we lived in Denver. Fair Housing Act was a couple of years in place, a lot of busing and crime going on in Denver, so they moved us to the suburbs, quite literally the foothills of the mountains in Colorado. And I went to Bear Creek High School, and we were the only Latino family in that neighborhood. We had, I think, one African American family. We were very assimilated, because this was, the early 70s. Culturation, biculturalism was not in. It was all about assimilating at this point. And so, we just blended right in.